Tonight, it's my pleasure to open the batting on behalf of the divisional candidates this evening. Can I begin by acknowledging the Quandamooka people as the traditional owners and paying my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and welcoming any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us tonight. In a similar format to Claire, and I expect a number of my colleagues, the approach that I'm going to take is tell you a little bit of the story of me and why it is that I'm putting myself forward to stand for Division 9, which covers Capalaba, Sheldon and parts of Thornlands. I'm doing it because I want to be a strong voice for that community and because I want to see local politics done differently. I'm a reformed lawyer. I started out in one of those national commercial firms, the equivalent of an Eagle Street firm, but left and started working with the community. I ran Victoria's Homeless Persons Legal Clinic for a number of years, where I supervised a volunteer roster of a few hundred lawyers who would go out to soup kitchens and shelters and provide legal help to people who were homeless or at risk of homelessness, removing some of the legal barriers that they faced amongst some fairly complex social circumstances. In that work, it was about providing direct services to vulnerable people in the community who needed it, but also advocating for policies and systems and programs that would provide them with support. That included working really closely with the homelessness sector, including a period of time on the board of the peak organisation for homelessness services. After doing that for a few years and after a short stint teaching in law school, I found myself as the Director or CEO of Community Legal Centres Queensland, which is the peak organisation for community legal centres here. Community legal centres, I think, are one of the better kept secrets in the community sector, providing free legal help, government-funded legal help to people who can't afford it. You might be familiar with some of the organisations that we represented, like Bayside Community Legal Service locally, the Women's Legal Service, Caxton Legal Centre and the Environmental Defenders Office were amongst our 30 members. Today I work in a large health charity where again I'm engaged in at an executive level but advocating for or attempting to influence government to ensure that they're providing quality health services, preventative services to make sure that people stay healthy and for patients that they get the treatment and support that they need. Through that short potted history, I guess, of my professional background, what I want to share with you is that I've got a commitment to the community and working in community organisations and seeing positive change through those different roles. I was also given the opportunity in 2014 with the Churchill Fellowship to travel internationally and research community-led social change movements and how they work with lawyers. And in the same year, I received a Medal of the Order of Australia for my contribution to the community. Today, as I said, I'm working for a large health charity. I'm on the Community Advisory Council for the Brisbane South Primary Health Network, on the board of Star Community Services and joining the board of Playgroup Queensland. And those are organisations I think that give me experience in governance and the type of governance and community services that are important to so many parts of our community. Personally, I'm the eldest of 4 boys. My mum was a counsellor in Geelong for 12 years and it was watching her operate that really gave me an insight into the impact that counsellors can have on local communities, on making sure that we get the infrastructure that we need, the services that we need, and see the positive impact that counsel and quality counsellors can have on community. She was a member of the Labor Party, I'm a member of the Labor Party because I believe in that idea of a fair go. And I know you've heard this before, but while I do believe in that idea, I don't believe that party politics has a role to play in local government. And I think the work that I've done with community organisations shows that I can work with different levels of government, with different political colours to achieve quality outcomes for the community. My wife Amanda and I have chosen to bring up our family here in the Redlands. My 2 kids go to school at St Luke's here in Capalaba. We love the fact that we live in a community where our kids can ride to school or ride the neighbourhood to visit their friends. They can participate in great community organisations, community sporting organisations, and that they can visit quality services like our library and our skate park and our neighbourhood parks. Now, as I've been getting around and talking to people around Capalaba in my community, I think it's those kind of local infrastructure things and the basic services that for a lot of people is how they understand the role of council. The old idea of roads, rates and rubbish is kind of coming through, and for a lot of people that's the level of engagement they have, the level of interest that they have in local government. But I know that that's not true of you. I know that you understand the important leadership role that councils have. For me, that role is a balance of representation and leadership, and I think having worked in peak organisations in governance roles and as an employee, I'm quite comfortable with the idea of that balance of representation and leadership. But I think you can't do that unless you've got a clear mandate, and I don't mean just being voted in, going to the ballot box every 4 years. I think that mandate comes from a continuing conversation and deep engagement with the community. And I know that Redlands 2030 started from, or has a history of that kind of idea of building a shared vision, a shared community-led positive vision for the type of community that we want. And once we have that shared vision, decision-making becomes easier. I don't think it's ever easy, but it becomes easier. Decision-making is also easier and better when there are quality governance processes in place, and I think that's an area where, as Claire said before, our council could do a lot better. I think things like the over-reliance on meetings happening behind closed doors, I think the debacle around Willard's Farm and the Birkdale lands in recent times are examples where we need to have more transparency and more accountability, and that governance needs to be a little bit more positive.
Yeah.
Thank you. But as well as improving those processes, I want to come back to that idea of what a shared vision helps us do. When we have a clear vision for the types of jobs we want to create, we understand what kind of policy leaders we can pull to attract them. Claire and others, I'm sure, will speak about that. I'm really excited, given my professional background, that almost half of the new jobs in Queensland over the next few years will come from community and social services, health, ageing, disability support services. And I think understanding the shared vision that we have for the types of jobs that we want to see will also mean that we'll have fewer of those kites being flown with some of the ideas that the ill-informed or under-informed ideas that come out from time to time.
Yeah.
If we have a clear vision about where people will work, then that will help us understand the type of transport and connections that we need. I'm one of those 3 in 5 people in Redlands that leaves this city every day for work, and we do need to work with state government to make those connections and transports clearer. When we have a clear idea of the type of, a shared vision about the type of community that we want to create, then that leads into the types of services that we want to provide, the type of infrastructure that we want to have, and particularly, my interest, I guess, the services and supports of the most vulnerable people in our community. Once we understand the types of services and supports that we need, we'll understand how to allocate the funding that we have to make sure that we have strong budget processes and fairer rates policies. If we have a clear vision for the type of tourism that we want to attract, we'll understand the kind of infrastructure that we need to build, and I think without that clear vision, that's why some of the contentious projects that we've had come up. With respect to the Toondah development, I think it's a great example of that we haven't had that shared vision. I think as far as that type of development goes, and you know better than I do, the legal, economic and environmental complexities of that, but I come from a starting point that if it's not supported by the community, then it shouldn't be supported by council. I want to be clear that I'm not anti-development. Our communities are growing because we live in such a great part of Queensland that people are coming to, but I think that shared vision will help us do that in a responsible and balanced way, and I think improvements to things like the city plan, as we've seen through the discussions around medium density housing at the moment, is an example where that shared vision and collaboration needs to happen. And so that brings me to the important role, I think, of forums like this and organisations like Redlands 2030. Such an important role, not necessarily representing all of our community, but made up of committed thoughtful, community-minded people that play such an important role in the community and in our democracy. Thanks for inviting me to speak tonight. Can I thank the candidates that have come along. I think it's great to see such a quality group of candidates putting themselves forward for the elections this year. I think particularly in Division 9 there are a few quality candidates, and for those of you that are in our division, I think you're spoilt for choice. I think our community is looking for a change, and I think there are some great options. I hope you'll vote for me because I will be a strong community voice for Division 9. Thanks very much.